situation. Now, it's hard to do that when your car's a little unsteady getting in. The first thing to do is slow up a little bit. But when you do that, you actually make the car looser yet. So sometimes you can't even slow down enough. You almost have to make yourself drive in there.
And there goes Joey Logano, putting Danica now 2 laps down. And the reason I brought you up to that is because that's the same thing that happens at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Rookies get in there, and they have to force themselves to literally learn how to flat-foot it because the car is just unstable until you get there. Battle for 5th place, Kevin Harvick, along with Carl Edwards. Harvick underneath. Looks like he's going to be able to clear him. Yeah, he's got him.
Yeah, it does. Looked like Kevin Harvick, by what we can see here, both of these runs after the green flag is flown, that it takes his car a little bit of time to come in. I don't know if they're starting their air pressures way down, but to get it to Kevin's liking, he's losing some time, especially to these Toyotas up front.
Right now, Kevin Harvick 6.3 seconds behind the race leader of Joey Logano. Lap 61 of 150 as we take a look at Joey Logano leading in front of Brian Scott by 1.3 seconds. Scott's the only driver in the top 10 without a Nationwide Series victory. Can he get one today? Stay with us. Working lap 65 here at the Staterbros 300 at Auto Club Speedway, and Joey Logano is still our race leader by 3.2 seconds as he puts another lap on more traffic here at this 2-mile oval. Kyle Busch has gotten around Brian Scott for 2nd place, so obviously the changes that they have made, Kyle is starting to work his way back towards the front. As we said, 3.2 seconds behind. And Vickers is now in 4th, Kevin Harvick 5th, Greg Biffle is 6th, Carl Edwards 7th, and David Rudiman is in 8th position. So we rounded out the top 8. Why don't we go up to speed and take you a little deeper in the field? Doc, let's check in on 9th place.
And that would be Brad Keselowski, the 2-time most popular driver in this sport. He's driving a brand new car today for Penske Motorsports, built by new crew chief Paul Wolfe. And ironically, Penske has decided to run the older Dodge engine. They're running the R5 P7 instead of the new engine, but that would mean a smaller tapered spacer. In terms of the handling, the car was very free early on, and they took a major swing at it. 2.5 rounds on the track bar. It has gotten much better, but still not quite good enough. Vince.
The 38 car, Jason Leffler, is currently in the 10th spot. Leffler was a little bit too loose in that first stint, but says now it's even freer than it was before. Leffler hasn't had great results at this track, but he loves racing here. He says the seams on the track create a challenge. He said that, it's one of those places you've always got to be hustling the car, and that fits right in for a guy that grew up driving sprints and midgets. He's definitely hustling it today, Dave.
Vince, Trevor Bayne has a problem. He can't hustle the car on the bottom of the racetrack. He came on the radio about 5 laps ago and said, whoa, I can't hold the car on the bottom of the racetrack. That's the kind of thing that gets the attention of the crew chief, and Jerry Baxter's going to have to help him a little more next time he comes down pit road. They got it a little bit better, he said, but the back end is just moving around. It's really not helping him turn that much better. Actually, a little bit too much on the bottom. Vince?
The 12 car, Justin Allgaier, is sitting in the 12th position. They had a really good car here last year, but in the words of crew chief Chad Walter, kept shooting themselves in the foot. They had a pit road speeding penalty, took 4 tires on a late pit stop that backfired. They ended up 14th. Not a bad finish, but felt like they were much better. So they didn't want to hurt themselves today. They wanted to make sure they had a good race car, which they do, and capitalize on it, which they're trying. Still a little bit too tight for the 12 of Justin Allgaier. The 62 of Brendan Gaughan. Gaughan is in 13th spot. This car's had some success in its history, a top 10 at Phoenix back in 06. Also, Stephen Wallace drove it to its first nationwide pole at Bristol in 07. But he's working with a new crew chief, Brad Parrott, just in their 2nd week. So they're still working on the chemistry between the two, but he loves the experience Parrott brings to the table. I look for this team to continue to get better. Dave?
And Vince, for James Buescher running in the 14th position, this run, actually both runs today, have been kind of like practice for him. He said, the team didn't hold back anything for me. They threw a car at me this weekend that even beyond my experience, and I have learned to drive it this weekend. What they did the last time on the adjustment made the car so twitchy free compared to how tight it was that they may have to go back a little bit on that air pressure adjustment. Doc?
Well, the 15 car of Michael Annette right now running in 15th position. The 23-year-old former hockey player continues to impress a lot of people. He finished 10th in the points a year ago and recorded his career best finish in this car on this racetrack last October. That was 6th. The car coming to him was a little free early on, but they made an air pressure adjustment on that last stop. Jamie.
And an update on Danica Patrick now. She runs 33rd after that last stop. They tightened her up. She's feeling a lot better about the car, and in essence, she's been able to give a little more feedback about her car.
I feel like down low, I'm hurting the rear tire too much, the right rear.
Feel like you're hurting it? That's getting looser and looser because you're usually using it?
Yes, Tony.
And of course, she's talking about the line that she's driving. For more on what Danica's talking about, let's go to Tim Brewer in our Craftsman Tech Garage. Tim, what's she talking about?
Jamie, what she's talking about, she's literally turning right. And anytime you can take tape off the nose of the car, you're going to alleviate downforce. That's going to make the car a lot more controllable. Naturally, your best friend is air pressure. By putting a little air in the right front tire, it actually tightens the car up. But my best suggestion right now, she's looking for direction. And Tony Uri Jr., he's a master at figuring out what that car needs. But right now, you're going to see somebody turning this wrench. What they're actually doing, they're lowering the inner pivot point of that roll center of the track bar. That will tighten the car up. But they run a tremendous amount of rear spring in the car. That's the reason you see them bounce across the bumps that hard. But taking air pressure out of the right rear tire, it'll also tighten it up. But they're just looking for direction right now. Marty?
All right, thank you very much, Tim, as there is your race leader, Joey Logano, 3.1 seconds ahead of his teammate Kyle Busch. He's now led 68 laps, and he's led 65 laps only 5 times. He won 3 of those races, finished second the other 2. Our aerial coverage provided by Goodyear, the official tire of NASCAR. New Fuel Max tires help you get there on less gas. While we look down at our race leader, Joey Logano, with a 3.5-second lead, let's talk about the motorsports calendar. The Lucas Slick Miss Nationals qualifying going to be at 2 a.m. Eastern. 11 p.m. Pacific sounds better. That's tonight on ESPN2. Final 7 Eastern tomorrow evening. That also on ESPN2. Then NASCAR now at 10 a.m. Eastern tomorrow on ESPN2. And then the roundtable with Alan and the gang, 5 Eastern, also on ESPN2. And our next stop next week at Las Vegas. It's presented by GoDaddy.com, 4 Eastern. Also on ESPN2. I should just say it's all on ESPN2. Just remember, ESPN2. Back to the racing action, and Joey Logano now has led 73 laps. His teammate Kyle Busch has led the other 3. And remember, at the beginning of the race, we talked about the fact that Joe Gibbs Racing has led 85% of the laps coming into this event in the last 4 races, and they're just clicking them off. And here we go, first blink of an eye in the second round of pit stops. David Rudiman pulls off from his 7th place position. Let's go to Dr. Jerry Punch.
On Rudiman's first stop, they decided to go down on the air pressure in both front tires. We'll let Andy describe what that does to the race car, but David said it really has improved the handling of the car. A minor air pressure adjustment this time, otherwise should be a routine stop, and they will make an adjustment on the chassis in the right rear. Left side tires going on, and Rudiman will have to make, as most of these cars will, one more stop to get to the checkered flag. He is down and away.
So David will come back out onto the racetrack. Meanwhile, Joey Logano still going off. Here comes Brian Scott as he's heading your way, Vince Welch.
That's exactly right, and Bill Wilburn reminding him about his pit speed limit to keep it on the 4,700 on the RPMs. They're going to make a chassis adjustment, also an air pressure adjustment, 4 tires and fuel. Brian Scott says they got to get the front end turning a lot better. The car went away from him during that stint. Says it's just pushing a little bit too much, so the car not quite as workable for Brian Scott as it was in that first stint. Doc.
Carl Edwards said the adjustment they made on the previous stop helped it about 1/3. It is still very, very tight in the corner. In fact, Carl had backed off the throttle, concerned about using the right front tire. Air pressure only. He is down and headed back.
Coming down pit road is the 20, our race leader, Joey Logano. Dave Burns, he's coming your way.
Now, Joey's a good driver. He told his crew, you really made it better at the start of the run that time, not quite as loose. However, I need you to make it a little bit freer at the end of the run, just a little bit too tight. That'll be a track bar adjustment in the rear window, full of Sunoco fuel for the leader. As well, Kevin Harvick is on pit road. One of the things they're looking looking closely at is the front grille of Harvick as he gives up the 5th position to pit. He wanted to see if they had any damage on it from a little contact there. It looks pretty good. They'll make an air pressure adjustment. Jamie?